When we made the awesome Monster Mojave Grom, we had some leftover parts. And that gives us the opportunity to make a car that Arrma has not yet released. And that's a short wheelbase, short arm monster truck. It's gonna be the smallest Grom ever, and it could be really, really cool. But before we do that, I was personally a little bit disappointed in the bashing footage on this Monster Mojave. I actually lost most of the footage, so I wanna go ahead and take this thing out for another bash and let you guys see how this thing really performs. In order to do that though, we're gonna have to fix this front CVD. If you missed that previous video, what we did was take the new Mojave Grom, put the wide arms from the Granite Grom onto it, put a big brushless system in it, and turned this thing into the largest Grom you can get. Unfortunately, there was a defect in the Power Hobby CVDs that I bought for this upgrade, which meant we ended up with stock front CVDs. And as you probably know, those stock CVDs have plastic outdrives, and unsurprisingly, that plastic outdrive failed. So before I show you what this thing can really do, we just need to swap this out. It's kind of hard to see in there, but the pin just sheared right through the plastic. And that's a pretty common failure on these things, especially when you're putting big power through them. We were running 4S on this, so this was not a surprise that it failed. If you've never taken one of these apart before, it's pretty straightforward. There's just this spiral spring clip you have to peel the end off of, and then you can pull it off the stub axle like that. Then we're just gonna take our replacement end, put our pin through. It can be a little tricky to get everything aligned, but it's not too bad. And then we just need to put this spiral spring retainer back on. It's easier to put on from this end. Just have to grab an end of it, get it started, and then just walk it back on again. This can be a little tricky, but if you take your time, it's actually fairly easy to do. And now we just need to put it back together again. For this bash session, we're gonna be running on 3S, which is more than enough power for this car and should help save these plastic CVDs. I'm definitely excited to show you how this thing actually performs, but I'm really excited to see how the short wheelbase, short arm Grom is gonna perform. I always used to dread working on these small RCs, but these Groms are just so pleasant to work with. All right, guys, let me show you what this Monster Mojave can really do, and then when we get back, we're gonna build something that's never been built before. Guys, this truck's an absolute blast, and I'm more than impressed with how it performs. But now let's get to building something you've never seen before. I've been trying to think of what I'm gonna call this truck, and even though this is gonna be the smallest Grom you can currently make, it's actually gonna most closely resemble the shape of a Big Rock, as the Big Rock is generally a long wheelbase with relatively narrow arms. I'm not sure, so maybe we'll call this the Little Rock, or maybe just the Big Rock Mini. Previously, I showed you these hot racing output cups. I was really hoping they were gonna be an improvement over the stock plastic output cups. Unfortunately, they didn't actually fit properly, and I'd like to see why they don't and see if we can actually make them fit better. I've got one of the output cups here, and as you can see, it doesn't actually seat all the way down into the gear like it's supposed to. And looking at this, it appears as though it's just a dimensional problem. Something on here is just out of tolerance with these gears, causing it not to be able to seat all the way inside. I'd like to see if we can just kind of force it into the gear. As you can see here, when we install it, it doesn't quite go all the way in. Let's see if we can force it in with the screw. All right, that's where it stops. Okay, yes, I can force it into the gear. Let me see if I can do that on this side. See if we can close up that gap. And yes, we can force it into the gear on both sides, and it actually feels pretty good. I would caution against doing this though, because you're just screwing into a little bit of plastic here, and depending on the specific tolerances of your parts, you might end up stripping out the gear or causing some other failure. So ultimately, I would recommend against using these hot racing output cups. Fortunately, these updated plastic and metal gear differentials are quite a bit better than the previous ones, and I noticed that they actually did improve the output cups. You can see that this is quite a bit thicker here on the outside, and I believe they've also improved the materials because I haven't had these tabs break off on any of these output cups on the updated differentials, so this is definitely a good improvement. And we're gonna go ahead and use one of these plastic differentials in the front of our little big rock. And then we'll just use the stock bumper and bulkhead cover, but to add a little extra flair, we're gonna use this custom bash bumper that I laser cut in a previous video. Having the smallest Grom in the world definitely opens up some interesting possibilities. This could be an awesome indoor basher, or could even compete with smaller vehicles from some other brands. Let me know down in the comments what you would do with this little big rock. And while you're down there, if you enjoy these kinds of custom builds, make sure you get subscribed because we're doing this kind of stuff all the time. There we go, and that feels pretty good with the stock shocks. The shorter arms will make this suspension a little bit stiffer than from the factory, which is probably going to be a good thing with the added weight of the brushless system. And now we just need to do the same thing to the back, and we're ready to install the electronics. There are several options for not using the stock ESC. Because it includes a mount for the servo, you do need to replace it with something. In certain circumstances, you can just leave it in there. Because this is a short wheelbase chassis, and we're going to be putting a brushless ESC in there, it probably wouldn't fit under the body. You can cut the ears off for the ESC, which does work. I've seen people even gut this ESC and just use the base of it as a platform, but I've got a 3D printer, so let's go ahead and 3D print a replacement. And to do that, we'll just pop over to Thingiverse, look up the Arrma Grom, find the mount, download the STL, open it in our slicer, make sure the settings are correct, and send it to the printer. While we're waiting for that, we'll go ahead and get this motor installed. The beauty of this 3800 kV Kinso motor from Amazon is that it allows you to use your stock motor mount and stock pinion. I'm excited to find out what this thing ends up weighing, because not only is it going to be the world's smallest Grom, but it'll probably also be the world's lightest Grom. While we wait for that mount to finish printing, I had a few people ask me if the new Castle Cobra 10 would fit in the Mojave Grom. And whereas you probably could do a bunch of trimming and make it fit, this thing is absolutely massive compared to the Micro X2 that I have in there now. And it would probably also be way overkill for this little car. And I don't even know if the all-metal drivetrain would hold up to this power. That being said, I want somebody to try it and let me know how it goes. There are a lot of options for what material to 3D print this mount in. I chose 98A, which is a very stiff TPU, because I found some materials tend to not work well with small screws, and the threads will strip out really easily. This TPU works well and is only slightly flexible. I would still definitely recommend screwing these small screws in by hand, because you could easily overwhelm these threads with a drill. And whereas, of course, doing it this way takes more time, it's still quicker than reprinting the part. Guys, we're getting close and I'm getting excited. I just need to tidy up this wiring, then we'll move on to the best part. That's gonna be this fresh green body I got for this project, and to go along with that, we've got some Big Rock stickers. And now we just need to put these tires on, pop the body on, and there we go, the world's first little Big Rock Grom. I think it looks really, really cool. What do you guys think? And it weighs 740 grams. I don't have any other stock Groms to compare this to, so let me know down in the comments what the Typhon, Granite, and Mojave Grom weigh stock. All right, guys, looks are great, but we gotta see how this thing performs. I'll see you outside. So there we go, guys, the Little Big Rock Grom. What do I think about this thing? I think it's absolutely awesome. It's really small, really handy, and actually handles pretty well. These tires do better on this truck than they did on the Mojave as far as I'm concerned. They have a decent amount of grip, but not so much that it wants to traction roll all the time. This power system is more than enough for this truck. And overall, if you've got the parts laying around, I'd recommend putting one of these together because it's a lot of fun. So that's it, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you get subscribed and check out one of these videos.